YouTube, this is Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today I have a Linux tutorial, music making tutorial, involving one of these. This is a pad controller. This is actually an older one, an MPD-24 by Akai, and they still make something very similar to this. They have the MPD-18 as well as some more complex ones that you can buy. But a lot of times people will use something like this in either Ableton or Reason if you're using Mac or Windows. Ableton is really great with this unit. Everything's mapped out automatically and it works really, really good. But what if you want to use this in Linux? You can actually do it pretty well too. The way I'm going to be doing it today is within the software Reaper, which I'm sure if you've watched my channel, you've heard of Reaper. It is probably the best DAW right now, digital audio workstation for Linux. It runs on Windows and Mac as well. So if you're not using Linux, you can also do this in Windows and Mac. And first off, what I'm going to be doing is actually sampling a record in Audacity. Then I'm going to cut the samples up, put them in Reaper, and then show you guys how you can play with samples on one of these within Reaper. So anyway, here we go. Okay, so the samples I'm going to be doing are something off of my Hawaiian Paradise box set, vinyl box set that I have. This is some very retro, old kind of exotica Hawaiian music, and it's really, really great. So hopefully I won't get any copyright trouble with this. I'm not going to play too much of it, and if I do, I'll probably change the pitch so that way I won't get in trouble with YouTube. But this is a great set of records. I found this at a thrift store several years ago, and all of them are in excellent condition, and it's really, really cool music. So I'm going to use one of these, and I'm going to be doing it on my Sylvania Soundburger type turntable, which I created a video about how to rip vinyl off of one of these into Audacity a few weeks ago. So if you check back on my earlier videos, you'll find that. So what I need to do is I already have Audacity open here, and then I'm just going to get the record player ready, and then we will start sampling. Okay, so I just finished ripping the song into Audacity, and first thing we're going to do now is make some samples that we can use with the pad controller. So right off the bat, let's go ahead and normalize this so we get a good level. And the recording actually recorded really good. Sounds really nice. Okay, so I'll play back a little section. Sounds excellent. Okay, so right in the beginning here, there's a section that I want to use, and that's just these drums. So let's hear this. And with those birds there too, that's pretty cool. So let me zoom in. Let's find something that sounds good as a loop. Not there. Let's find where the one is. I think right here is the one. Okay, yeah, so that's the one, but maybe I want this one because that's where the birds start. Let's hear that. All right, that is looking pretty close, but how I can really tell is if I zoom in, I'm going to go right to the edge of where that transient starts, and then I'm going to go to the beginning of this transient here. Now if I hold down Shift on the keyboard and press the space, it'll loop it. Sounds pretty good. It's a little bit, need to cut off a tiny little bit of the beginning. Let's try it now. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and export this first sample. Let's go to export and then export selected audio. And let me make a folder for it. Create folder. exotic samples. And this will be drums and birds. Okay. Now let's find something else. So let me zoom out a bit. Two. And is that 8? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So this will be 8. And that should be enough. Okay, so now we're done with Audacity. You can save this file if we ever want to come back to it and get some more samples later on. And close out of here. Now if I go into my samples folder, we'll see all the different samples we just created, which are all right there. Okay, so now comes the second part and the fun part. Okay, so if you're familiar at all with using pad controllers, like especially in Ableton, there's something in Ableton called the drum rack. And the drum rack allows you to like basically drag and drop samples into this rack that basically is set up already like the pad controller. So it's really easy to figure out how to assign samples and everything to the pad controller. However, the way we're going to do this is, luckily, somebody had created this, well, Labyrinth is his screen name, had created this, or he or she's screen name, created this template for Reaper called Redrums Mixer Mode that basically does the same thing. So it's really cool. I've actually tested this already. And what you're going to want to do is go to this site first and download this template. And I'll go ahead and post a link for this down below. And once you have that downloaded, then you can open it up in Reaper. So next stop will be Reaper. Okay, so now I'm inside of Reaper, and I actually used this same template for my Nokia drum samples, my Windows Phone drum samples, which you might have seen that video. But so if I hit the pad controller right now, you can hear that. Let me get this angle a little better so you can see the bottom pads. But you can hear that right now I have the Nokia samples in there. But I'm going to change those, and we're going to work with the ones that I just used, or that I just made. So, okay, you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so now how this works, if we just open up the effects rack here, and let me drag this over so you can see it. These are all our samples. So what I'm going to do is open up my file browser where I was. Actually, I already have that folder open. Let me close this. Go to my Exotica samples section. And where's that drums and birds? So let's drag this into the kick drum. And let's hear how that sounds. And that's pretty cool. So let's just go ahead and start dragging these in here, and we'll see what we can do. So guitar arp, we'll put that in snare. Oops, did it wrong. And so you're already starting to get the idea here what we can do. We can also mess with these samples, which I'm going to do here in a second. So let me just finish loading them all in. Okay, so now these are all in here. And what I could start doing now is I could start messing with the pitches and the dynamics and stuff here if I want to. So let's check out the first one again, the kick, which is the drums sample. Okay, now pitch bend. Actually, I wonder if any of my controls are mapped. Let me see. I'm not sure if they are. No. So that's okay. This is something that probably will take a second tutorial. Of course, if you're using Ableton, all of these mappings are already set up, which is really easy to do stuff. But I'm sure you could do it all in Reaper as well. But for now, I'm just going to work with the samples alone, and then we'll record something with just using the pad controller. I don't want to get too involved, or this will be like a 4-hour tutorial if I start doing like MIDI mapping to all these different parameters. Okay. Let's see what we can do here. Semitones, pitch offset. Let's see what this does. Let's just type it in. Oh, come on. All right. Now that one's a bit loud for me, so I'm going to turn this one down. Pitch bend. I don't know what this... I think that is for the pitch bend controller on the MIDI controller, which actually I don't have on this particular MPD. Pan. Okay, so let's do this one to the left. And now I can turn it back up a little bit. And as far as the... Now you can also do loops down here. No, I'm not doing this right. Okay, let's do this sample up a 7th. So let's hear how that sounds. Okay, so number 3, that one is a bit loud for me. We can also change our attack, sustain, release, and all of those settings as well. And as well as the max voices. And what that means is if you have more than one voice active, then you could play... You'll get basically layered samples. Like if you... Okay, so if I set this to 2... Or actually, let's set it higher so you can hear the difference. Like if I set that to 4, and now I play it like more than once, you can hear one is still going while the other one gets triggered. So if you have that set to 1, each time you hit it, it'll start a new sample and not keep playing the old one that you just triggered. Which is generally what you're going to want. And let's do this one. Let's pitch it down. -7. And let's do -10 actually. Let's go kind of extreme here. All right. Oops. Changed the wrong one. Ah, there it is. Too much. Now that one I kind of like as is. That one's way too quiet. So that's what? I think that's here. Yeah. Now, of course, this is just playing around. You can do this however you want and experiment with these controls. But it's just to show you the general idea as to what you can do and how it's similar to Ableton in a way. And once I get some stuff done here, I'm going to record a little bit, but let's keep working with it. Okay, the release control kind of goes crazy there, it looks like. It's a little bit weird. All right, I'm going to go with this. Let's go ahead and play the click track so we can hear what this sounds like, kind of practice with something. Okay, so I'm going to need it faster than that. Let me change my tempo. Let's just do it at 130. I think that's going to be good. All right, so I'm going to do something like that. Let me start over. Press record. Okay, so let's save that and let's listen to it back. I'm probably gonna have to quantize it, but let's check it out. Okay, so I could see that one needs to be right there. And let's select all, go to quantize, and then what is my grid set to? And I think that's good, so let's hear it. Nah, it's a little weird. Let's go to manual quantize. We'll do 1/16. Let's hear that. All right, try 1/8. Maybe that's better. There we go. I forgot to accept it. Yeah, the quantize in Reaper still kind of confuses me, honestly. It's a little bit weird. Okay, there we go. Okay, so a couple of them are still a little weird in there, but overall it's it's mostly on time. So now what I'm going to do is trim off this little beginning here. And am I not on snap? Snap is enabled. Oh, the grid's not showing. Grid lines, there we go. Yeah, so make sure your grid is on, so that way it'll snap to grid. And then I also want to cut off this last one because that is actually the one of where that should start. Now what I'm going to do is drag this back to the beginning, so that starts on the 1. Now let's go back, and I'm going to not double click, but what I'm going to do is highlight this whole section. And now I'm going to loop it, just so I can hear it. Now, loop's already on. Okay. Looks like our first note got cut off somehow. Let me go back again. Oh, no, it's there. Looks like my camera froze, so I'm just going to close it. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. So I'm going to save it. And let's go to Save Project As. I'm in my Reaper folder. And let's call this Exotica. Okay, so you get the idea. Like, I could go in there and clean that up a little bit, and then as well as start adding some more tracks, I could go in and do another track of like finger, drumming, and come up with new patterns and stuff like that. But anyway, it's really, really cool. It's very flexible. If you have a pad controller, this is one of the funnest ways to use one, in my opinion. Just cutting up samples and then putting them in there on the pad controller. Now, doing this in Ableton is really fun too. So I'm going to do a video on that as well pretty soon. But of course, Ableton, I know some people have gotten it to work in Linux, but I haven't actually experimented with that yet. So when I do it in Ableton, it'll be in Windows. But there's also Bitwig Studio, which I hear has some similar features to Ableton, but I haven't tried that one yet either. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know. Click like, thumbs up, subscribe, click the bell icon if you like. And if you want to contribute, you can always go to my Patreon account, which is just patreon.com/demonicsweaters. And check out my music as well at demonicsweaters.com. And there's a regularly updated blog there too that has all kinds of cool stuff, plugins and tips like this on it, and sound fonts and samples and all kinds of stuff you can download. So anyway, thanks for watching and have a great weekend, everybody.